Chapter 7, Translation Mediation. We're now in part 2. So this is where we focus on translation as a form of cross-cultural communication or mediation, as discussed in Chapter 1. We begin by looking at two models of translation, decoding and coding, and frame-based approaches, and illustrate how frame theory is relevant to the translation process.
So what's the difference?
Well, we believe that the decoding and coding model, popularized by NIDA, is indeed a scientific model. This model suggests that the deep structure we previously discussed can be translated across to an equivalent deep structure form in the target text.
And we don't.
Exactly. We draw on the work of a variety of scholars, and in particular, Basnett, Newbert, and Shreve, Fillmore, Snell Hornby, Hermes, and Marai.
And functional theories.
Yes. And the first part of the chapter stresses the importance of frames, organization of experience and knowledge repertoires, and the need for translators.
And interpreters.
Yes, to understand and recreate culture-bound frames wherever the context allows. The chapter then divides the discussion on text, context, and translation into the principal aspects of universal modeling: generalization, deletion, and distortion.
So for example, under deletion, we look at levels or types of deletion of the context and issues of implicature, that is, what can be inferred, and the various ways translators, mediators, including journalists, actually do account for these losses.
And we also look at the opposite situation where linguistic deletion has taken place or maybe should take place in translation. Though, of course, the should is actually contextualized to a specific set of examples. We would never generalize. Never.
Absolutely never. But this is a serious point, and we do look at the dangers of prescriptive and overgeneralized translation theory.
And regarding distortion, we look at this in terms of the theory and the professional charters that translating and interpreting associations tend to suggest that somehow textual accuracy eliminates distortion.
So we look at the practicalities of constrained distortion in terms of language asymmetries, cultural contexts, and culture-bound reading.
Which takes us then to reconsider the term manipulation that was brought up during the cultural turn.
And to conclude, we note how manipulation can result in translation gains. Our aim here is to show how mediators can benefit from a conscious use of the metamodel, and to stress that the translation brief, text type, and context will of course determine the level of appropriateness of each translation strategy, action, or omission.